So, this was a pendulum of an episode for Star Trek Picard. It swung from the goofiest, light-hearted moments we've seen in this series to the darkest I think has ever been in Star Trek. Hello, Rick here, and I'm going to be upfront with this one. I disliked it on my first viewing for the most part, even though there were several moments I really enjoyed and a scene near the end that was a standout for me. So, let's get started with a review of Episode 5 of Picard, Stardust City Rag. Full spoilers ahead, and let's begin. First off, Icheb. I may still be grieving here, but what the hell? I understand they needed a motivation for Seven to strike out the way she has, and this does that job. But the trouble with killing off Icheb in this scene at the beginning, which wasn't the same actor by the way, is that the villain responsible is also introduced and dealt with within one episode, so I have no time to grow to resent that character. On my first viewing, the entire episode was overshadowed by his butchering, and it wasn't until a review that I enjoyed the frivolity later on. When they were cutting up Icheb like tonight's chicken, they asked where his cortical node was, and then Seven enters the room. Ah, there is his cortical node, as he donated it to Seven in the Voyager episode Imperfection, as his physiology was young enough to survive without the critical component, and Seven of Nines was failing. This dialogue was not accidental timing, but a reinforcement that the people behind the show have a decent understanding of Trek, but it makes choices like this even more unsettling, because I feel that Icheb being written out in the way he was another victim of too much story and not enough time to tell it. I would have liked to have seen at least a scene of Icheb talking to Seven in his shuttle, and then the comms go silent as he gets captured. Then, during the retelling of events to Picard, we could have learned of his fate. This would have created a growing sense of background dread and underpinning the episode, as we wonder what happened 14 years ago and where is Icheb now. Unlike Maddox, who was introduced in this series as a plot device, I think Icheb's character deserved more than being reduced to someone else's narrative motivation. As for Seven's appearance, it seems she is fairly different from her past self, but although far more colloquially spoken, she still has mannerisms and leftovers from her time aboard Voyager. She's always been the character in the show that struggled with the way things were done. Often she'd see an optimal solution and just tackle it immediately. So it's no surprise that she continues this trend to this day by being out there in the collapsed neutral zone, helping everyone she can. Notably, she at one point seems to have been referring to herself as Annika, her birth name, as Bajazil refers to her this way, but has since regressed under the reputation-connected name of Seven of Nine. This also leads me to a scene that gave me the tingles and an appreciation for both her and Picard's character development, and that is just before she beams out and she asks Picard if he truly feels he regained his humanity after his assimilation. He answers immediately with a yes, but then she asks all of it, and after a hesitation, he gives the honest answer of no. And that rings so true. How could you remain intact from that? Picard was used to destroy 39 Federation ships and crews, and remembers all of it. It was a dark point for him, and to see it honoured with such a concise conversation between two people who have gone through the same thing speaks of a mutual understanding, even as Seven continues to struggle to this day. In Freecloud, when we first see Mr. Vup, I thought for a moment that we were meeting a species from the books, but no, he's a new addition, a Beta Inari reptiloid species with an acute sense of smell. I thought the name was familiar, and there is a species in the Delta Quadrant called the Inari too, so if I had to speculate, the Beta denotes the quadrant's origin of the species, but beyond that I doubt the two are related. Maddox was reintroduced, and I'm surprised by the relationship with Agnes. I thought she was a bit starstruck by him, but I didn't realise they were sharing cookie dough with each other. Her killing him off at the end was foreshadowed by her troubled looks and deteriorating mental state, as noted by the EMH. Agnes has clearly seen this big secret that the Zatvash guard, judging from what she's saying. And now we have a literal example of this revelation being so groundbreaking it fundamentally changes a person's perspective. I'm just saying, you build up a secret like this, it better be worth the reveal. But personally, not wearing my critical hat, the only suitably grand ideas I can theorise on, I don't like. The Romulans are all evolved from synths, or somehow they made the Borg, or time travel. However, what I did enjoy was Elnor being used as the fish-out-of-water comic relief, and the crew playing extravagant dress-up to fit in with the business style of Freecloud. We've heard a lot about this locale away from the Federation space, and from the targeted advertisements to the myriad of establishments, it's a Ferengi's paradise down there. No surprise then that Quark seems to have potentially been able to franchise his bar, and seems to have earned a great deal of respect among the criminal elements as the crew spoof his approval for Rios' false identity. The way the crew was getting together and having fun before the caper, even 7, was beautifully enhanced by Elnor's complete lack of practice with lying, which, as an adherent of the way of absolute candour, he would be. His isolation on Vashti was also likely the reason for his lack of tailored advertisements. No browser cookies related to his profession or interests for the automated spam to latch onto. Raffi gets some more backstory, and we learn that her preoccupation with digging into the Mars synth attack went a long way into driving her family apart, especially as she believed in Romulan involvement, and her son is marrying a Romulan. Rifts that were there would have been widened, although apart from the couple of new terms being dropped, there's not much more to the plot added here. There were several other background references in Freecloud, as well as some small issues that still stand out to me, like why did Bjayzl hang around after the attack on her persons by an angry notorious ex-Borg drone from the Delta Quadrant. But I did enjoy this insight into the underbelly of the Star Trek universe that organisations like Starfleet, and thereby the audience, seldom delve into. Overall, this was a light-hearted romp played for comedy, bracketed by 2 horrific death scenes that overshadow the lighter moments. Although there were strong character interactions from the new and old alike that better developed the ragtag crew, and again the Picard 7 conversation was excellently done. As is customary, I'm going to include a little lore section here as well, and it seems relevant to focus just on why Borg components were so prized that Bjayzl would risk killing a Starfleet officer to acquire some. Basically, it's because Borg tech is so varied, adaptable, and for the most part more advanced than most things everyone else has. Borg nanoprobes in particular can perform a myriad of functions and can be reprogrammed to convert biology and technology into completely new forms, act as a smart immune system, and conduct extensive tissue repair. Borg have been known to reanimate from around 90 years of being dead. On top of this, Borg have implanted shield emitters that can be reactivated even in disconnected drones that are as adaptable as those on their vessels, allowing them to scramble their own transport signatures, walk through force fields, and most notably absorb all energy weapons if the frequency and output is known. Much of a drone's skeletal structure is replaced too, with reinforced augmentations that have no ill effect if properly maintained. As we see from the scan of Seven's body, that level of cyborg augmentation is near impossible without some dramatic life-changing effects. Yet she is able to remain functional for her entire life. These physiological changes manifest in increased strength, reflexes and precision, although arguably this is wasted on a connected drone as all they seem to do is walk menacingly towards you. However, in battles of physical might, it takes individuals like Data to overpower a drone, or maybe Worf if he gets lucky. Their visual acuity is also greatly enhanced. Their eyesight could focus down to a molecular level and view the entire EM spectrum on command. All that contained within some tech that just fits around the eye. Seeing all that a drone is capable of, even just one possesses a threat if it's still connected to the hive mind, it's easy to see why there would be a black market for anything genuinely Borg. On top of this, meddling with Borg tech is dangerous. Not only will Borg deny any attempted acquisition of their technology, but the tech itself is often wired with numerous failsafes and protocols to attempt assimilation or call out to the hive mind. Therefore, dissecting a full and active drone would come fraught with risk. But a former drone, who has no links to the collective, much of his dangerous tech removed, and still retains a myriad of inner advanced parts, well, that would be a much more appealing target. I'm also wondering, Maddox was in business in some form or another with Bjayzl, and he cites a loan that he needs to repay. But taking into consideration his field of study, and her supply of illicitly and immorally acquired cyborg components, could their deal have gone deeper than just a financial loan? Was Maddox in contact with her for her black market trade of Borg parts for his own projects? So, with all that tied up, that's my review for episode 5 of Star Trek Picard. As I said, this episode was a pendulum for me, and the first one where I feel that the gritty tone that modern Trek is going for went too far. This is not a family show by any means, so how are people who grew up with TNG supposed to indoctrinate their kids into being Trekkies now? I don't mind the story that they're trying to tell, but so far I've only seen Dark Trek from CBS, and I need to see how they tackle a consistent, lighter feel before my worries are completely addressed. Never has this been more prevalent than in this episode for me. What about you? Until next review, or any video before that, I've been Rick, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.